What's up everybody, my name is Carl, and today I thought I'd do some MCU catching up and review a couple of things. There have been a couple of MCU projects that have released over the past few months that I thought I would review in this one video because I don't have all that much to say about them to make them their own unique video. So let's kick things off, starting with Ms. Marvel. Directed by Adil El-Arbi and Bilal Fallah, this follows a young Kamala Khan who is a superhero fanatic, in particular to Captain Marvel. Having to deal with the typical high school dramas and family life, Kamala doesn't feel like she fits into either place or in general, until she gains superpowers of her own like the heroes she looks up to. Overall, Ms. Marvel had some decent and somewhat interesting qualities to it. I think it's great that we have more diversity in the MCU and cultural representation. The good points of the show. Adding to what I said previously, I enjoyed seeing Kamala's culture in this series. I particularly liked the historical side of things with the partition and how it impacted Kamala's family. Episode 5, Time and Again, was my favourite episode, where we see what happened to Kamala's great-grandmother, Aisha, who was actually a clandestine during the partition. I think the cast definitely had some great chemistry together on screen, kind of reminiscent to the Tom Holland Spider-Man crew. There are some fun moments in the show, such as Kamala exploring and experimenting with her powers with Bruno, and the small fight scenes in Karachi. The bad points of Ms. Marvel. I think the show started off promising, but ultimately it went askew in the middle. With just 6 episodes, there was certainly a lot to pack in, and just felt rushed so we could get to the resolution. It would have benefited on being longer, which in turn could have fleshed out the story, as well as some of the characters, which didn't seem to have much development. Najma started off as a character who was supportive and understanding of Kamala, to then wanting to more or less kill her. You'd think that was in a few episodes, but nope. That all happened in one episode, which introduced us to Najma. Okay. There were definitely some plot holes in this show. Najma and her fellow clandestines were captured by the DODC in some Supermax facility. I kind of assumed that this was based and located in America. During this time, Kamala was in Karachi, and of course, Najma and co broke out and within a matter of minutes appeared in the exact same location as Kamala. I get that clandestines can sense the bangle that Kamala wears, but there's no way they got there that quickly, right? That didn't make sense. The visual effects were pretty unfinished. The effects on Cameron's powers looked terrible, and even Najma's death sequence looked awful. I do hope the VFX team get better treatment in the future. Overall, I'd give Ms. Marvel a 6.75 out of 10. Curious to see how Ms. Marvel fares with Captain Marvel in the Marvels film. And now onto Thor, Love and Thunder. Directed by Taika Waititi, this follows on from Avengers Endgame, where Thor is on a quest to seek inner peace. This gets interrupted by Gorr the God Butcher, who seeks the extinction of all gods throughout the universe. Fortunately, Thor won't have to deal with this alone, as he teams up with Korg, King Valkyrie, and his ex-girlfriend Jane Foster, who has, to his surprise, gained the mighty powers of Thor. Good lord, this film was bad. I'm not going to lie, but this hands down is the worst film I have seen so far this year. I feel like what happened is that Marvel liked what Taika did with Ragnarok and basically told him to turn it up to 11, but personally, this went too far. The good points of this film. Christian Bale as Gorr the God Butcher pretty much stole every scene he was in, which sadly wasn't many. The bitterness and darkness was portrayed very well. In terms of colour palette, this film visually had some good colour grading cues. I liked the transition that happened when they entered the Shadow Realm. It kind of gave you that earthy, dark feeling. The bad points of this film. MCU humour has always been a thing that as of late, I've found quite oversaturated in the various projects. In this, it's way too over the top. The gags and humour in Ragnarok worked quite well. In this, it was just plain stupid and a lot of the jokes really didn't land well. The screaming goats were such an old 2010s joke that I'm amazed they thought it would be funny today. The love triangle gag between Thor, Mjolnir and Stormbreaker was really corny and really didn't add anything to the story. I'm kind of disappointed with Thor's entire character arc. I thought it would develop after the Guardians of the Galaxy left, but it really didn't. Only by the end of the film it does, when Thor becomes a surrogate father, but by then it's more or less too late for any real development. Then we get on to visual effects and, well, let's face it, you know where this is going. It was terrible. The floating head sequence is definitely one of the worst pieces of visual effects I've seen in recent times.
Where are you?
I'm not sure. I don't know how to use my magic.
So bad that Marvel went back to redo it. And it still looks bad.
I'll go by the name Astrid. I'm now.
I think the film's pacing was rushed and the film was missing some key scenes that could have fleshed out the film and characters. I would have loved to have seen more of Gore and him actually butchering and killing gods, as his name suggests. Overall, I give this film a 4 out of 10. Seriously, for the next Thor film, they need to dial back the humour a lot. I think Ragnarok was great, but this was a step too far. And finally, She-Hulk. Directed by Kat Coro, this follows Jennifer Walters, who tries to navigate a complicated life as a single 30-year-old attorney who also happens to be a green, superpowered Hulk. Overall, I thought She-Hulk was a pretty decent show. I liked the lawyer-based episodes and certainly Jennifer's relationship with her cousin, Bruce Banner. The good points of this show: Jennifer Walters' character development was pretty decent. She went from being an attorney who hated being a superhero to coming to embrace it by the end. I liked the fourth wall breaking aspect of the show. It definitely references the source material in the comics. The finale of the show was my favourite and definitely highlighted the fourth wall meta-ness the most. Daredevil came back! That was definitely a big highlight. It was great to see Charlie Cox as the Devil of Hell's Kitchen once again. He had a pretty cool fight sequence and classic costume. The bad points of this show: visual effects were the best out of these 3 projects, but still not perfect. I think they could have definitely added more detail to the She-Hulk design, but the end result wasn't so bad. I like how they referenced CGI being expensive, which was quite meta. While seeing what Jennifer got up to outside of being an attorney, I would have preferred it if we had more time of her as a lawyer and dealing with various superheroes. That's kind of what I was expecting to see a lot of in this show, but it sort of stopped halfway through. I think the Megan Thee Stallion gag was pretty corny, but whatever, it was part of the narrative of the episode. I'm sure being made as an internet meme was what it was set out to do. The twerking stuff, I guess they were going for fun, but it wasn't received that well. Oh dear. Overall, I'd give the show a rating of 7 out of 10. Pretty decent cast, fun light-hearted vibe and good character development from our main protagonist, and cheeky fourth wall breaking which actually worked well in my opinion. I would say that it would have been better if we could have had more lawyer-based episodes, a more focused storyline and better visual effects, but aside from this, a decent show. So comment down below what you thought of these MCU projects, what ratings would you give them, and what were your favourite and least favourite moments? Like and subscribe and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!